Hey, y'all. Thanks for stopping by. So, it's another week in America, which means there has been another mass shooting. And if you aren't familiar with the one that happened this week, it was on the 24th of September, in the early hours of the day, at an ICE facility in Dallas, Texas. A lone shooter by the name of Joshua Jahn opened fire on detainees and agents, shooting one detainee and killing them. Two others were injured. They've been rushed to a hospital. They haven't died at this time. And then, as authorities rushed the shooter, he turned the weapon on himself and ended his own life. Now, because he did that, there's not going to be any court case about this. Nothing has to be proven about motives or anything like that regarding the case, which has led to a bit of speculation and conspiracy amongst not just my political contemporaries, but those to the right of me as well. Namely, regarding the image post that Kash Patel made moments after the shooting was made public. Maybe you saw the picture, you recognize it from the thumbnail, this stripper clip with 5 bullets on it that sitting FBI Director Kash Patel said was engraved with an anti-ICE message that literally says the word anti-ICE on it. I have some gripes about this, mainly that this is not an engraving. This is writing on a bullet, which seems very petty to say. I will totally own that that's a pedantic, minuscule gripe to have with this statement, but the fact of the matter is, it's true. This is not an engraving. This is writing on a bullet. And if we're going to be specific, if we're going to tell the truth, we need to use accurate words when we're doing our reporting. And then, of course, the second thing is that the marking on the bullet, this anti-ice message, was literally the words anti-ice. The joke I've seen floating around is that Kash Patel said, oh, well, we gotta church this up to make it look good for the base. Write some anti-ice message on the casing. And one of his agents said, you got it, boss. And now we have a scene out of BoJack Horseman where Mr. Peanut Butter had a banner made in his exact verbiage when the person on the other end didn't get what he was saying. Now, those casings are not the only evidence we have about this. There have been other official statements made by the FBI and local law enforcement. They've stated they did find a note, manifesto, however, written by the shooter, stating that he did act alone. The specific verbiage left in the note was, yes, it was just me and my brain, which any normal investigator would read that and assume that yes, the shooter did act alone, but that's not going to stop our current administration from flouting that this is the entire left or that this is Antifa who did this, that this is part of some organized crime ring propagated by anybody to the left of Reagan. When in all reality, when you look deeper into this subject, when you look at the statements made by the shooter's contemporaries, this is probably a nihilism related shooting. The only real journalist out there right now, Ken Klippenstein, he interviewed some people who were close to the shooter, some of his friends and associates, the people who he played video games with, and let me tell you, this guy played some video games. What you're looking at here is a screenshot of the shooter's alleged Steam page. Some of the games he had the highest amount of hours in, and the one that really concerns me about this one here is these Rust hours. Almost 7,000 hours in Rust, and that's enough that should get you put on a list, I gotta be honest with you. As much as that sounds like a joke, Rust is the kind of game that you have to put a lot of time into, that it consumes you, that playing it for that long leads me to believe that you don't have that much of a social life outside of the internet, that you don't have that much of a support system or structure around you to keep you here, to keep you grounded to reality. And that might lead you to some more extreme ways of blowing off steam. The people who Ken interviewed regarding this anti-ICE message or the shooter's political motivations said the following. He was most certainly an edgelord, an irony guy. Josh was an edgelord who wanted someone to get blamed. I think he tried his best to write something goofy to rile people up. You have another one of his friends saying that Joshua liked to flood people's comments with rape jokes, something that he called playful shock humor. And I think that's another sign that something might not be all right up top if you think that rape jokes can be played off as slight shock humor. When pressed about Jahn's political beliefs, his friends sort of confirmed that he was this sort of unassociated libertarian type. One of them said he looked up to Ron Paul, notable old man libertarian figure, but they said that his politics were irony based and in a 4chan sense, that it was meant to be contrarian, provocative, boundary pushing, but not for conviction. Possibly the most damning part of this story, the thing that really solidifies that this is a nihilism, end of your rope, failure to launch type of shooting where someone was just trying to commit suicide by cop, is this bit where his friend talks about how he let him go after he got more into 4chan type of speak. I mostly stopped talking to him when he took the 4chan/irony stuff into daily interactions. He was becoming unbearable. Once he dropped out of college, he had no obligation to be social, and none of us reached out due to his edgelord behavior. Now, I should say, this should not be blamed on his friends. If you have a friend who is leaning into more racist humor, or telling jokes that you don't like, or believing political ideals that you don't stand behind, you have no obligation to try and change somebody's mind or force them to believe what you want. You have a very limited time on earth, you don't know how much time you got left, and frankly, trying to change somebody's mind is hard. It's easier to fool somebody than to convince them that they have been fooled. But I have to wonder if this guy actually had some people in his life who cared about him, who really gave a shit what he was doing and what he was thinking, this probably wouldn't have happened. I think about a lot of these recent mass shooters, especially the ones who have the whiteout written on their guns, the ones who seem to be connected to this sort of accelerationist slash nihilist cults on the internet who all they want to do is sow dissent and do chaos around the world. And I wonder how different their lives would have been if they just had even one person in their life who genuinely cared about what they were thinking and what they were feeling and how they could help them. Unfortunately, though, there is no saving Joshua Jahn. He decided to take his depression and dissatisfaction with life out on the world, and now the rest of us are going to have to deal with the fallout from this. I don't think we're going to hear any extra information regarding this case because, again, like I said at the beginning, the shooter is dead, so this won't be going to court at all, and there doesn't need to be anything proven in a court of law about what actually happened. The sitting president and the rest of his administration are just going to blame this on the broad left and Antifa and basically any group the president doesn't like rather than addressing the real cause of concern with this, which is the ongoing dissatisfaction and nihilistic tendencies of not just the younger generation, but the entire American populace. All I can really ask of you is to just keep an eye on your friends. If you notice one of your friends is getting farther and farther into this sort of edgelord irony, spite-based humor and stuff like that, call it out. At least try before you give up on somebody, because once somebody has nothing left to lose, they might end up doing something crazy like this. And again, I'm not blaming this on his friends, at least not any more so than I'm blaming it on society at large for giving up on trying to help people. But I guess until next week rolls around and we have another mass shooting that's going to get blamed on the left, y'all try to have a good day.